Hello, and welcome to your Food Matters podcast. I'm Dr. Sue Kleiner. I'm here with my wonderful friend and colleague, Erik Bustillo.
Hey, what's happening, everybody? Hello, Sue.
Hello, Erik. We are so happy to be here again. And if you are enjoying our podcast, please share it with your friends. We are available on all the podcast platforms, and you can watch us as well as listen to us on the Move Nutrition channel on YouTube. So today we are going to continue a conversation that we started a little while ago on longevity. We wanted to really get into the weeds on this one, break down point by point things that you can do. Erik's got a great list, and I'm going to let him lead off.
Awesome. Thank you, Sue. So if you guys listened to the previous episode on longevity, I had mentioned this list, and I wanted to take today as an opportunity to just go into a little bit more detail. Maybe not really bore you guys with all the information. I want to make it a quick episode, so a quick listen with some pretty good takeaways. So I'm going to go ahead and jump right into it. The first suggestion on my list, or we can maybe call these like pillars or something along those lines. I haven't thought of like a cool name for it, but maybe I will. Um, the first one is lift. I think that it's crucial for people to lift weights, and keeping in mind that lifting doesn't mean that we have to go one rep max every single time that we're lifting. We don't have to go to failure every time that we're lifting, even though going to failure or close to it can be beneficial and helpful with either building muscle size and those sorts of things. But I'm not even talking about this from an aesthetic standpoint. Longevity, the way that I define it, is living as well as you can for as long as you can. And I've mentioned that before. Um, and lifting is one of the things that we see is extremely beneficial, and not even just from a muscle standpoint, because obviously we use muscle for everything. The things that we don't have to think about, our heart pumping, our lungs breathing, and those sorts of things. But even when we're sitting down, like right now, I'm sitting down, but my muscle is supporting my body to stay upright. Muscles in my neck are preventing like an internal decapitation or something. We just don't think about these things. Um, Among other physiological benefits, right? Muscle mass, helping to process, if you will, sugar a little bit better, right? So maybe we're looking at prevention of type 2 diabetes. But then there's the benefit on our bone, right? On our skeleton. And we oftentimes think about muscle, 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 which is extremely important. But sometimes we forget about bone. And that can also deteriorate. We know that we are at risk of losing a pretty decent amount of muscle mass throughout the years, but we also can risk bone loss. So resistance training can help with that. So lifting is that first pillar, if you will, on my longevity list.
Right. I think that so many people don't know that bone loss mirrors muscle loss, right? So as you're losing muscle over the decades, you are also losing bone along with it because in order to hang on to your bone, you need to have stress or resistance against that bone. And when we don't have enough muscle to do that, the bone wastes away. Even if you're taking your supplements, your calcium and your vitamin D and your vitamin K, you think you're consuming everything you need. If you don't, if you're wasting away muscle and you're not actively using muscle, then you actually still will lose bone.
Yeah, and that's huge to keep in mind. I'm going to put it like in the little back pocket for when I talk about agility, because that's another one on my list. And I'm just saying that so I can remind myself. So remember that. So lift, right? Support your muscle mass, support your bone. The next one also helps support bone mass as well, and it's jump. We should be jumping more frequently or more often. I'm assuming that we can, right? Of course, if someone is a wheelchair user, I'm not going to tell them to jump or anything like that, right? But what's the equivalent for them? Maybe some form of like upper body plyometric or something along those lines. Um, but for an individual that's not in a wheelchair, we have to think about the benefits of jumping. These are things that we stop doing as we get older. And I've said this so many times, and I'll continue to say it till I'm blue and purple and orange in the face. But I refuse to blame age for inability to do things. And I think people get very complacent with age. Oh, I can't be doing that. You know, I'm 35 years old. I can't be doing that. I'm 50 years old. It's like, no, you feel that way because you probably stopped doing it. So I'm not saying you have to jump to dunk a basketball, but you can try in a safe way, or you can at least jump onto something that you feel safe at, and then maybe push yourself a little bit more because that jumping is going to help in some cases, maybe like with reaction time or something along those lines, or being able to just kind of catch ourselves. So jumping is something else. I feel like once we stop jumping, we really start aging even more. And again, these are just like my own little philosophies, right? Some of the things I'm saying are based on studies. Some of the things is just me kind of like spitting out the way I feel about this.
But we did hear of a study report that was spectacular about jumping and bone.
Yeah. So that was pretty great. Dr. Clissold at the ISSN, she's over in New Zealand, and it was almost like seeing bone re-strengthening or regeneration through the impact of jumping, which is fascinating.
Right, and they weren't doing great big jumps.
Mm-mm.
It was like next to your desk at work.
Yeah,
Anything but you needed to land straight-legged.
yeah.
That, it's the opposite of what we usually recommend, of make sure to bend your knees. This was land hard and then do another little jump, to sort of take the weight of that jump, or the stress of that jump off. But you needed to stress the bone by landing straight-legged, and she saw remarkable results in women that were, I can't remember, 30s and 40s.
I
I
don't
mean,
remember the
they weren't,
age.
I don't really remember the age either, but it would, I imagine, work at any age. It
I would
was
think.
because of the basic science behind it.
Yeah, yeah. So we have lift and jump, and then right after jump, talking about reaction time and being able to catch yourself, I have agility. Right. So agility is something that it's we usually associate that with athletes, but I think that everyone can be an athlete. We just have to train that way and also see ourselves as such. I've been an athlete all my life, and I've never stopped being one. I'm not a part of a professional team. I'm not a part of any kind of team, but I train like an athlete, and I continue to compete in different things, whether it's organized or just on my own, and I do that. But agility helps with like the quickness of, again, being able to catch yourself, that quick first step, or changing direction. Think of this: as we age, maybe we have to step over things or around things, and agility is going to play a huge part in that. I worked with someone who they would only walk as their exercise. This was, I don't remember how old they were. Let's just say 50 plus. Unfortunately, they took a tumble. They fell. They tripped on like something that was on the floor, a box or like a case of water, or something along those lines. They fell, and they ended up fracturing their hip. Now, I feel like that could have been avoided if they would have used, maybe if they were just strength training, it could have helped support the fall, or they had the strength to catch themselves. But if they did agility and or jump training, maybe they could have prevented the fall entirely and caught themselves and reacted much faster. But instead,
Right,
they had
right.
a fracture that ended up happening. And I mean, statistically speaking, we know that 30% of individuals that are over age 65 fall every year. That's like an epidemiology statistic.
Wow.
Yeah. And unfortunately, there's 10% of the falls that we see of those people are serious, like fractures, which is potentially the worst case scenario, unless the fall ends results like in death or something. And these falls are not associated with something else. This is just like an actual fall where the person ends up on the floor, not secondary to a stroke or a heart attack or anything like that, right?
Yeah.
And imagine when people get 85 and above, that percentage goes up to 40%. And again, sarcopenia might have a lot to do with that because, again, sarcopenia, natural muscle loss through aging. There's that maximum ish of 8% risk of muscle loss every decade after 30. Um, so just imagine if people are just sedentary and working and trying to earn some money to be able to afford food and all of that, and they're not working out in any way. And now from 30 to 60, they've lost what 24% of their muscle mass. Good lord, what is that going to result in potentially, right?
Right.
So it's like risk mitigation. Taking care of yourself and doing these things is like a form of risk mitigation. Um, so that's the first three is those lift, jump, and agility. Um, the next one is speed. I think we stop sprinting as we get older as well. I forgot what it was. I heard something. Someone threw out a statistic. Maybe they just made it up or something, but I forget what percent. I'm gonna start just making up statistics and just say it with confidence, right? But it was something like adults over the age of 30. I forget what percentage. A huge percentage don't sprint like ever again. Um, and to me, I'm just kind of like, no, we have to keep doing that. Whatever, call it one day out of the week, something along those lines,
Mhm.
to support that speed. God forbid, or whoever anyone believes in, forbid that, like, and I seen this video. The person falls, stroller starts rolling away, and
Right.
thankfully, there's like a bystander because the person was on the floor. They couldn't get themselves up. And then people want to hate on burpees, right? I'm like, you should probably do burpees.
Right. Right.
I'm like, so the person could not get up from the floor, and it was so sad to see, and it was scary. The
Right.
shoulder's going towards like an active street, and a bystander was able to stop the stroller from going into that street.
Hmm.
Gosh, I pulled up a statistic on my phone. Um, and I forgot what the percentage was, but it was looking at something along the lines of just having to do with like a reaction time kind of thing and all of that, which I think speed can help out
Oh,
with. You
right.
know, uh,
Certainly. Yeah.
so these are things that I think we don't stop and think about, right? We just think that we stopped doing these things because we got old, so to speak, and I think we
Yeah.
got old because we stopped doing these things.
Well, and you become afraid, right? I'm afraid I'm going to fall.
Yeah, for sure.
And so so what you're saying is don't stop doing all the things that help you prevent falling.
Exactly.
And then you don't have to stop doing all the things that you're afraid of because you think you're going to fall. I mean, it's one thing after another, right?
Yeah.
It's just a cascade, and once you start down that road of loss of ability, and frankly, we're on opposite sides of the spectrum a little bit. Like, you're in Miami, I'm in Seattle. You're in your 40s, I'm in, or 40, something like that, right? Around that,
Mid 30s ish.
mid 30s. I'm in my mid 60s on the other, you know. And so it's it's a funny thing. I mean, you do recognize over time, even if you stay very fit and healthy, that there are some losses, but they don't have to be profound.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It isn't all due to aging. I think that's what you're saying. And if you want to have longevity with independence, with capability beyond just hanging around, as we go into later years, then what you really need to do is actively participate in things that you've always enjoyed and not stop. And if you've never been active, think about getting active. Those are new things you can add to your
Yep.
life at a time when you have more time to do it.
Absolutely. I like to say and think that it's never too late. Um, um, it's never too early to start with this journey, changing your nutrition, being physically active. Like, people are afraid of, you know, it's going to stunt my child's growth. No, push-ups would do that if that were the case, and they don't.
Right. Yeah.
Um, so it's never too early to start, but it's never too late either. At least until it is, right. And the too late is,
Right.
if there was a really bad diagnosis or something along those lines. But we have to keep on doing these things. Um, the last one from a physical state of point of view is jogging. Right. This is really just aerobic fitness. Right. Something that's gonna get the blood flowing. It doesn't have to be high intensity, but let the heart pump, let the lungs, do their work and support cardiovascular health, which also supports brain health, right? Um,
And there's all kinds of ways to do that. Again, if people are, concerned about jogging outside and tripping, if you can get on a treadmill, do that. If you feel like that's safer, that you can hold on to the sides because you haven't been doing it and it's going to be new. Also, for all of these, it is really important if you're just beginning, or you've had something that's happened that's taken you away from your fitness routine and you're starting over and you don't feel quite as capable, get a really good trainer. Find someone to guide you who has the experience with people who have your kind of body, right?
yeah,
And your kind of mental state of perhaps a little fear and anxiety about starting to do these things. A good trainer is worth their weight in gold. A coach that can support you and guide you and that you trust so that you're willing to try.
yeah, 100%. I couldn't agree more. Um, and that's a nice segue into the not necessarily physically active, but in my opinion, physical activity plays a huge part in this. Of my longevity list is play. We should continue to play, whether it's play a sport that you enjoy, um, play an instrument, play a video game, something, or just be playful in a playful mood is extremely important for longevity. Again, in my opinion, uh, listen, no one makes it out alive, right? So why take things too serious? I think play is extremely important, which leads to the next point of laughing. Laugh more, laugh often. Unfortunately, we take a lot of things very seriously, and I get it. There's a lot going on in the world. People have our problems are our own, but if we can play and laugh more, that helps set us up for just being in a better place from a longevity standpoint, which goes along with the next point of having an optimistic mindset. If we choose pessimism or cynicism and choose to just kind of see the fact that the grass is dying out and not see that we can water it, then we're not helping ourselves, and that's when you have the grumpy old men. That it's a true stereotype, unfortunately, I think, because they probably don't do these things. um, so those are a few of those things, and the last one that is more from like a social standpoint or a humanistic standpoint is talking. There's power and strength in community and not holding things in. I think that this one is extremely important for people because we have a lot going on and we need a release. Not everyone is being physically active. Ideally, they would be. So being able to talk about problems, something that's on our mind, sure, of course, with people that we trust is huge. Um, so being able to play, laugh, have an optimistic mindset, and talk about things with people are the next ones on the list.
It's such a good list.
Yeah, I'm on a roll. And but the last ones are quick though, because like I said, I wanted to try to keep it brief, and I've gone longer than I've wanted to. Um, but they're more so related to nutrition, and I'll keep them very brief. Get adequate protein, which we have episodes on that, because that's going to help support many other things like your immune system outside of your muscle mass, immune system, transportation of nutrients, and all of those things. Practicing moderation. Moderation is very important because, in my opinion, even though we don't need the Oreos, we should still be able to enjoy them without guilt or fear. Just understand that we don't have to have the whole sleeve of Oreos, but having two of them can be enough every now and then. Um, and the last one is variety, color on our plate. It's going to maximize the amount of nutrients that we're getting in that sitting. So if we can maximize that, then we're getting all the nutrients, hopefully, that we need, from vitamins and minerals to the macronutrients and all of that. And hopefully, this helps us not be overly stressed out. Like, thinking about this list, we're not overly stressed out, and we're still getting nutrition in all ways: physical, right? Mental, and obviously the actual nutrition from what we eat.
100%. And sharing food, finding joy in that, and community, all of that, it kind of builds a web of support, both physically as well as I kind of think in the, you know, cognitively in your mind, spiritually as well, and that, you know, being connected to the earth, understanding where your food comes from, appreciating the work that the farmers do, all of that food web is important, I think, in our appreciation, again, lasting joy, and helping lift our spirits to live a high quality life.
Yeah, yeah, amen to that. And going off of that, and I think to close it out, so I'm still kind of like going through this, but just last week we had to send my pup to pup heaven, um, and
Oh, I'm sorry,
no, I
Eric.
appreciate it. Thank you. And yeah, it's been tough and all of that, but there's this constant reminder, and his name is Knight with a K. Um, is that I feel like we can live more like Knight, in the sense of like, be present, be in the moment, and maximize every day as possible. Right? I think dogs really do that, because I've said this before. No one makes it alive. We are going to die one day. So are we pursuing fulfillment in what we do, and are we pursuing joy as well? Because again, one day we're not going to be around. So have we maximized our time here in the most healthy way possible? Right?
Right, right. Well, and the last one is going to just be a send off for listening to our next episode, a little teaser. A lot of the quality of our lives is also dependent on continuing to learn, keeping our brain strong. And my mom used to always say, "The day I stop learning, I'll be dead." And so it is a big part of experiencing the world around us and the quality and joy in life. But how do you keep doing that? What things can you do? We know that maintaining muscle and bone are really important. Is there anything different about the brain? And so stay tuned.
Awesome.
That will be our next episode.
Awesome. Good little teaser.
So, Eric, it is always fun. I always learn something from you.
Likewise.
I love our chats, and I hope everyone enjoyed it too. Again, if you enjoy our podcast, please share it with your friends. This is the Your Food Matters podcast, and we're signing off.
Thanks, Sue. Bye, everyone.
Bye.